Hello everyone, I'm Mai. Welcome back to my channel. When I woke up this morning, the first thing I noticed was my face. More specifically, my eyes. They were swollen again because of my allergy. It's not the most pleasant way to start a day. When your face doesn't look the way it normally does, you naturally become a little more self-conscious. I looked at myself for a while and thought about whether I should just stay inside today. There are days when your body doesn't really want to cooperate with you. You feel a little uncomfortable, a little tired, and even simple things seem like they require more effort than usual. But after a while, I decided not to think about it too much. My eyes were swollen, I didn't feel perfect, but that didn't mean I had to spend the whole day feeling bad about it. Sometimes we are much harder on ourselves than we need to be. We notice every little thing that doesn't look right and forget that nobody else is paying nearly as much attention as we are. So I decided to just let it be. After watching the rain for a while, I went back inside. I sat in front of the mirror and slowly brushed my hair. I didn't really feel like doing much with my appearance today, especially with my eyes looking like this. But I still put on a little sunscreen before going outside. It's just a small routine I've gotten used to. Even when I'm not going anywhere special, I try to take a little care of myself. I think taking care of yourself doesn't always have to be something expensive. It doesn't have to mean buying new clothes, going to a beauty salon, or spending a lot of money. Sometimes it's just brushing your hair, washing your face, putting on sunscreen, eating something you enjoy, or taking a proper shower when you've had a long day. Small things like that can make you feel a little better. Once I'm ready, I leave my room and head outside. The rain has started to calm down, and the streets of Lang Son are slowly becoming busy again. Lang Son is a small city in northern Vietnam, close to the Chinese border. It's not a huge modern city, so daily life here still feels quite local. There are small shops everywhere, traditional markets, food stalls, motorbikes, and people going about their normal routines. I like looking at these scenes when I'm riding around. Nothing particularly exciting is happening, but that's exactly what makes them interesting to me. This is just how people live here every day. People are going to work. Someone is buying vegetables for dinner. Someone is carrying food home to their family. Someone is opening their shop for the day. And I'm on my way to buy ingredients for something I want to make for myself. Today, I have a very specific craving. I want dumplings. In Vietnamese, we often call this kind of food sủi cảo. It's a type of dumpling with a thin wrapper and a filling that can contain meat, vegetables, and different seasonings. It's simple food, but it's one of those things that I can eat quite easily without getting tired of it. And today, instead of buying ready-made dumplings, I want to make them myself. So my first stop is to buy the dumpling wrappers. I pick them up and then continue to the market. I'm heading to Chợ Giang Bung, one of the traditional markets in Lang Son. This is the kind of market where local people come to buy and sell everyday things. It's not really a place designed for tourists. People come here because they actually need something. Vegetables, meat, fresh food, small household items, and all kinds of ingredients for cooking at home. I think traditional markets are one of the easiest places to see everyday life in Vietnam. There are no fancy displays or carefully designed aisles like in a modern supermarket. Instead, everything feels much more direct. You walk around, you look at what is available, you ask the price, you choose what you want, and then you move on to the next stall. For someone living on a limited budget, I also find markets quite practical. You can buy exactly the amount you need. You don't necessarily have to buy a large package of something. And when you're cooking for yourself, that can make a difference. I walk around for a little while before finding the meat stall. I need some ground pork for the dumpling filling. I don't need a huge amount, just enough to make a batch for myself. When I cook alone, I usually try to think about how much I can actually eat. There isn't much point in making a huge amount of food if half of it is going to sit in the refrigerator and be forgotten. So I buy the amount I need and continue walking. Next, I look for some vegetables. I choose a bunch of mustard greens to add to the filling. Vegetables might seem like a small part of a dumpling, but I like having them mixed with the meat. They make the filling feel lighter, and I like the little bit of freshness they add. At this point, I already have almost everything I need: meat, vegetables, dumpling wrappers. Now I could simply go home. But then I see something I can't really ignore. Grilled meat skewers. These are one of my favorite snacks. They're the kind of food that can completely change your plan when you walk past them. You smell the grilled meat. You look at it for a second, and suddenly you realize you're hungry. So of course, I stop. I buy a few skewers for myself. Maybe this wasn't part of the original plan, but I think it's okay to buy yourself a small treat sometimes, especially on a day when you don't feel completely well. We spend so much time thinking about what we should and shouldn't spend money on. Save this, don't buy that, be careful, wait until next month. And yes, being careful with money is important, but I also think there should be room for small pleasures. It doesn't have to be expensive. Sometimes a few grilled meat skewers are enough. With my ingredients and my little snack, I get back on my electric scooter and start heading home. The streets are still wet from the rain. The sky is gray, and I'm carrying everything I need to make tonight's dinner. I don't know why, but I already feel a little better than I did this morning. Maybe it's because I have something to look forward to. A simple meal. Something I chose, something I'm going to make with my own hands. When I arrive back at my room, I bring everything inside. Before I start cooking, though, I have one very important thing to do. I sit down and eat my grilled meat skewers first. After all, I bought them for a reason. The first thing I do after coming back is sit down with my grilled meat skewers. I know I came home to make dumplings, but I couldn't resist eating these first. Sometimes the little things you didn't plan for end up being the most enjoyable part of the day. I take my time eating them. They're still warm, and after being outside for a while, they taste even better. Maybe I'm just hungry, or maybe food always tastes a little better when you've been looking forward to it. I finish the skewers and finally start preparing the dumpling filling. I take out a large bowl and put the ground pork inside. This is going to be the main part of the filling. I don't have a special recipe written down. When I cook for myself, I usually just add things according to how I think they will taste. A little seasoning, a little salt, some other spices, and some chopped green onions. Nothing complicated. I think cooking for yourself is quite different from cooking for other people. When you're cooking for guests, you might worry about whether everything looks right. You might measure ingredients carefully. You might try to make the dish look beautiful. But when I'm cooking just for myself, I don't feel that pressure. If the dumplings aren't perfectly shaped, that's okay. If the filling is a little uneven, that's okay too. I'm the one who's going to eat them anyway. And honestly, I like that. There is something freeing about making food without worrying about whether it is good enough for somebody else. You can simply make it the way you like. I add the seasonings to the meat and mix them in. Then I add the chopped green onions. The smell is already starting to change. The meat doesn't look particularly interesting yet, but once the seasoning goes in, it starts to feel like an actual meal. While I mix everything together, I think about how much of our lives is built around food. We don't just eat because we're hungry. Food is connected to memories, to family, to home, to certain periods of our lives. There are foods that remind us of childhood, foods we ate when we were sick, foods our parents used to make, foods we bought from street vendors after school. And sometimes we don't even realize how much meaning a simple dish carries until we haven't eaten it for a long time. After mixing the meat, I prepare the vegetables. I take the mustard greens and start picking through them. I remove the parts that don't look good and wash everything carefully. The vegetables have a little dirt on them, so I rinse them several times. Then I put them on the cutting board. I start chopping them into small pieces. This part takes a little patience. If I cut them too large, they won't mix very well with the meat. If I make them too fine, they almost disappear into the filling. So I just take my time. I think patience is something I've had to learn slowly. When I was younger, I wanted everything to happen quickly. If I wanted something, I wanted it immediately. If something was difficult, I wanted to finish it as soon as possible. But as I get older, I'm starting to understand that some things simply can't be rushed. Cooking is one of them. You can't make the vegetables ready faster just because you're impatient. You can't make dough better by staring at it. And you can't make your life move faster just because you're tired of waiting. Sometimes you just have to keep doing the next small thing. Chop the vegetables, wash the bowl, mix the ingredients, fold the dumplings, one step at a time. When the vegetables are chopped, I add them to the bowl with the meat. Then I mix everything together. The green vegetables spread through the meat, and the filling starts to look exactly the way I imagined it. At this point, the kitchen starts to smell really good. I give the mixture a final stir and look at it for a moment. This is going to be enough for quite a few dumplings. And that's one reason I wanted to make them myself. Instead of buying a small portion of ready-made dumplings every time I want them, I can make a bigger batch once and save the rest for later. When you're trying to spend less money, cooking this way can be useful. You don't have to make a completely different meal every day. Sometimes you can prepare something in a larger amount and keep it for another day. It saves time, it saves some money, and on days when you don't feel like cooking, you already have something waiting for you. I bring the bowl of filling to the table. Then I place the dumpling wrappers beside it. Now comes the part I've been looking forward to, making the dumplings. I take one wrapper and place a little filling in the middle. Then I fold it and press the edges together. My first few dumplings don't look particularly beautiful. Some are too big, some are too small. Some look like they are about to fall apart. But I'm not too worried. I'm not making these for a restaurant. I'm making them for myself. And when you cook only for yourself, perfection isn't really necessary. I think that's something I wish I had understood earlier in life too. Sometimes we don't start something because we're afraid we won't be good at it. We think we need to know everything before trying. We want the first attempt to look perfect. But most things don't work like that. You become better by doing something badly first, then a little better again. Nobody is born knowing how to cook. Nobody is born knowing how to live alone. Nobody starts life already knowing how to deal with money, work, failure, relationships, or all the other complicated things that come later. We learn while we're doing them, and sometimes the imperfect version is still worth doing. So I keep folding, one dumpling after another. The table slowly starts filling up. It's actually quite satisfying to see them lined up together. Some of them look good, some of them definitely don't, but they're all mine. I made every single one of them. There is something nice about eating food that you've prepared with your own hands. You know exactly what's inside. You know how much seasoning you used. You know how fresh the ingredients were. And perhaps most importantly, you know that you made it because you wanted to take care of yourself. I don't always have the energy to cook complicated meals. There are days when I just want something quick. There are also days when I eat something very simple because I don't have much money to spend. But today is different. Today, I wanted to make something I actually enjoy. Maybe that's a small form of self-care too. Not always buying expensive things. Not always trying to improve yourself. Sometimes just giving yourself permission to enjoy a food you like. After a while, I finished making all the dumplings. I look at the table. There are much more than I expected. Definitely too many for one meal. So I take a few small foil trays and carefully place the dumplings inside. I'm going to freeze most of them so I can cook them another day. This is one of the advantages of making food at home. I don't have to eat everything today. I can keep some for tomorrow or the day after. And when I'm tired or don't know what to cook, I can simply take a few out and boil them. It's a small thing, but having food already prepared gives me a sense of comfort. There is something reassuring about knowing that your future self has already been taken care of a little bit. When the water finally starts boiling, I carefully put a few dumplings into the pot. They move around slowly in the water as I wait for them to cook. This is probably the easiest part of the whole process. After all the shopping, washing, chopping, mixing, and folding, now I just have to wait. And I think that's actually a nice way to end the day. Sometimes you've done everything you can. The only thing left is to be patient. I watch the dumplings as they cook. The wrappers become softer, and after a while, they start floating. That tells me they're almost ready. I don't want to leave them in the water for too long, so I wait a little longer and then turn off the stove. I take them out carefully and put them on a plate. They don't look perfect. Some of the folds are uneven. A few are shaped differently from the others. But honestly, I don't care. I made them myself, and somehow that makes them look better to me. I pour some soy sauce into a small bowl. For me, dumplings like this taste much better with soy sauce. It's simple, but it gives the dumplings a little more flavor. I sit down and finally get to eat. The first thing I notice is the texture. The wrapper is soft and the filling is warm. The meat tastes savory, while the vegetables make the filling feel a little lighter. The soy sauce adds just enough saltiness. It's simple, but it's really good. And maybe because I spent so much time making them, I enjoy them more than I would if I had simply bought a ready-made meal. There is something satisfying about eating something after watching it slowly come together. At the market, the ingredients were just ingredients: a package of wrappers, some ground meat, a bunch of vegetables. Nothing special. But after bringing them home and putting everything together, they became my dinner. I think that's one of the little pleasures of cooking. Maybe happiness doesn't always arrive as some huge moment that changes your life. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the form of a warm meal, a rainy afternoon, a clean room, or food waiting in your freezer for another day. And tonight, as I lie here listening to the rain, I feel quite content. Not because everything in my life is perfect, it isn't, but because for one evening, I have enough. Enough food, enough peace, and enough time to rest. Thank you for spending this rainy day with me. I'll see you in the next video.